Howdy, folks. It's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness. It is after midnight. And today we are doing a public service announcement about an invoice that I got. This is a non-political rant about tariffs. I'm speaking from an economics perspective, how tariffs can affect you as a gamer and the choices you make on when and where and how to purchase items and how to look out for potential surprises and what you can do to potentially avoid paying surprise tariff bills. Right, so a little background on this here. I'm going to focus mainly on this invoice for these games. There's actually was a set of Purple Haze and 4 expansions. There's only 2 here. These are the 2 that caused me to get billed this tariff bill. $25 unexpected. Now, I ordered these in 2024 before there was tariffs. I paid for these in 2024 before there were tariffs. That does not matter. Now, technically, this wasn't a pre-order of this whole product. This product was first crowdfunded in like 2022, didn't release until 2024. But I was pre-ordering reprints of some. Some of these things were already out of stock. They had all been released, or at least part of the set of 5 total items. But one of the things I want to point out is it doesn't matter when you ordered it. It doesn't matter when you paid for it. It doesn't even matter when something is shipped to you. What matters is when the product reaches the United States and enters the country, whether it's at a port or overland via rail or truck. When it comes into the U.S., the tariffs that are in effect at that time is going to determine what you pay or not. All right? So when you are ordering things now in this time of tariffs, you must, well, I don't say you must, you ought to, you should try to pay attention to what you think the tariffs are going to be at the time you finally get the product coming to the country. And you may not know that at all because crowdfunding has notoriously become very difficult for them to schedule these days when things will actually be done, get out the door, be able to be shipped, and arrive here in country. That's sort of a bad choice of terms. In country, we usually talk about in Vietnam, in country, there in Vietnam, but into the U.S. Okay, in country in the perspective of where you're at the time. Okay, so again, doesn't matter when you order it, doesn't matter when you pay for it, doesn't matter when it's shipped. It matters when it arrives. Now, you're going to say, does it matter where it arrives from? Well, yes and no. I pre-ordered these from Board Game Bliss, a company in Canada that usually has very friendly shipping. If you order a certain amount, you can get free shipping into the U.S. They've been, pretty good in the past. Now, I thought, okay, a little back, so I'm going to pedal back. These came in waves, like I said. So the Purple Haze and 2 other Purple Haze expansions came first, and they arrived before there was any tariffs in effect. These 2 arrived in July when there was tariffs in effect. Now, supposedly, the tariffs on Canada were in a pause state. Okay, there'd been a delay. I still got charged. Why is that? Doesn't matter that they're coming from Canada. These were produced in China. Okay? And the tariffs on China were in effect at that time. Okay? So it's all getting complicated, folks, because it is. Economically and how this is implemented, it is complicated. Okay? And remember, a tariff is not a tax on the country that sells something, manufactures something, produces it in the sense of, like, for example, these are from Phalanx. Phalanx is a company in Poland. Well, they're now headquartered in the United Kingdom. Sometimes they manufacture their stuff in Poland. Sometimes they manufacture some in UK. Sometimes they're manufacturing them in China. Sometimes they're having them shipped to themselves in the UK or Poland, and then maybe shipping out from there. In this case, these goods were produced in China, shipped to Canada, and then shipped again to me. Boom. So why did I get charged tariffs? Because the country of origin, the manufacturing company, is what rules the rates for tariffs. Okay? You cannot, if you're having a good produce, when I say producer, I'm saying a company that's saying, like, for example, GMT is a game company that produces games. Almost every single one of their games is manufactured in China. There are a few exceptions. And so a Chinese company is manufacturing them, shipping them to GMT in the States, and then GMT delivers them to their customers from there. So GMT, the importer of the Chinese manufactured games, they pay the tariff. Now, lately, GMT has been passing on part of the tariffs that they're getting charged to the end customer. You can see it as the import surcharge. They list it in the shipping notices these days, how much it is, $2, $3, $4, $5, somewhere in that range. And it's not necessarily the full cost. They are eating part of the cost. They're passing some on, etc. And some people want to talk about, well, look how little that is. It's only $2 or $3 on a big expensive game. Their margins are so huge. They're making something. You got to remember, GMT is a large game company that has a staff of people, warehouse people, office people, marketing people, that they are paying all the time. So you can't look at that part of the tariff of the cost of manufacturing and say, look at how huge the margin is. They've got a percentage of overhead to cover that game. So that's a whole discussion for a different time. But you need to know that for GMT, when you order a game from GMT, like the P500, you are not liable for a tariff directly. They are importing it. But in this case, they're passing it on to you. Some companies are not passing any of it on to them. For example, Compass Games, so far, Bill Thomas, now he already has usually like 6 or more games in his warehouse already, and he trickles games out from his warehouse. He does not have something being shipped to him and start charging people and ship it as it arrives. He gets it in his warehouse. He sits it there. He decides when it's going to come out. And any tariffs that he's been paying so far, he said that he's eating it. And most of the games released so far this year have been in the warehouse previously before tariffs. There was no question about tariffs. So different companies are going to do it different ways. If you are ordering something that's going to be delivered to you from the U.S., whatever price you're buying for, that's the price. You don't have to worry about the tariff necessarily. I mean, we are seeing that with pre-order. So I don't know, for example, Legion War Games, how they're doing something with their, pre-order price that they announced. Some of their companies like Dietz has said, we're eating the cost. We're eating the cost of the tariffs. And others have said, some game companies have gone out of business because their margins are so tight. They couldn't afford to pay for the import duties on a huge shipment of games coming in. So again, I'm over dwelling on that part, but this is part of the how you as a consumer of games in this environment of tariffs have to pay attention. So these games, I was thinking in my mind, oh, I got them from Board Game Bliss. They're coming from Canada. The follow-on, these two expansions were coming. Okay, I should not have a tariff because there's no tariff on Canada right now. Okay, but I forgot. I've way back in the 80s, I studied this stuff. I have a bachelor's degree in economics. But the nuts and bolts of stuff, have changed over the years. Sometimes certain things like de minimis are not another thing to be talked about at some point, but not in this video. But so even though these were coming from Canada, in a sense, I was importing them from Canada. Canada had imported them from China, and so country of origin, China. So we can see that. I'm going to look at some of the documents here. So here's my net bill, $25, and it's on these two guys here, which didn't cost me a lot. I'm trying to remember. I think at the time I paid like 28. It was between 23 and 28 each for them. Now, the way this worked is the importation has a certain value listed on it. And sometimes lots will be, individually inspected, and sometimes it's like, oh, there's a package, there's a declared amount on the customs forms, and they'll take it at face value. And so there's a declared value. Okay, now we'll come back to this other side here, because this shows a breakdown of what was in the $25.12. But here is Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. I'm not sure if you could read that. Entry summary. So it talks about board games, and in here you can see an article of China. In multiple places does it say that there's like over here a certificate of origin, okay? And it's like, well, this is coming from Canada into the U.S. exporters, Canada, but the fact that the country of origin here is CN is China. CH is not China. CN is not Canada. Canada is CA. CH is Switzerland. CN is China. For the two-letter country codes, that's an international standard, okay? So there's a declared value, and this is like coming from China into Canada. The value in Canadian was $65. There was a conversion rate, which shows up, okay, somewhere over here, $48. Here's all the different rates. There's multiple different pieces to the tariff rates, okay? And it doesn't matter the product. Some products are exempt. Different kinds of games have different rates. So that difficult to tell. If you really care, you might have to dig in there and learn. Like role-playing game books are normally exempt, but a role-playing game, box game with dice and figures and stuff like that is not exempt and is going to have charges. Okay. So the 65 Canadian, 48 exchange value. This is a total of 37.5%. That gives you $18 duty. That's the import duty. Now there's something else here. An ascertained other. $2.62. What is that, you ask? Well, we'll see that in a minute. And that would only add up to $20.62. Where's this other, $4.50 roughly? Okay. So this is based on the declared value. As far as I can, my product was not inspected. yours could be. They could say, oh, this person's cheating. This was obviously worth way more. And you might get some big import bill based on what they think the value is. So hopefully you don't get expected, and the person that's sending it to you is honest about it. So these rates added up to $18. This other fee now going to here. Can you read that? Here we go. Customs duty, $18. Merchandise processing fee, that's the $262. Not sure exactly what that is. Merchandise processing. That sounds like the customs guy charging extra. The actual processing, if they actually inspected it, it would probably be more. It's like, we looked at it. We looked at the declaration forms, the custom forms. It looked good. This is what we're charging. If they had an inspection, probably more. And then disbursement fee. This turns out to be, this is the fee that FedEx is charging me. Them being the carrier and them having to deal with this, they charged me a whopping extra $4.50. So on a $18 custom duty and $2.62 merchandise processing, there's an extra $4.50 going into FedEx's pocket. They're making money on this stuff. I mean, I don't, other than just FedEx picks stuff up and delivers it, right? I don't know to what degree that they spent, extra labor to have to deal with this tariff situation or not, but that's the reality of it. So in games that cost, me, it's like half, like 50% of the value. These two pieces were less than $50. I think it is somewhere between 46 and 56. I think, I don't remember exactly, so between the declared value in the Canadian at the time, the exchange rate, all that stuff, and what I paid at the time, it was somewhere in that region between 46 to maybe $56. So I'm gonna call it $50. So I did net paying, a little more than 50% of the cost. So even though the duty fee, and some of these rates are much higher now. Some of these actual duty fees are 50%, or some, I don't know if they still have like 100% retaliatory tariffs on certain Chinese goods or not, or whatnot. But so the moral of the story, this is going on way longer than I wanted to, but this is important. Know what you're buying, okay? Know where it's coming from, okay? Try to have an idea of where is it being manufactured, okay? Now, if it's being manufactured and shipped, again, like into the U.S., and then it's getting shipped to you, you're not going to have to worry unless the seller, like you pre-ordered something, and the company that has it says, well, we have to charge you more. And you may not like that. You may decide to, like, if they don't eat the cost, I'm not going to do business with them anymore. Or you may say, well, they're in a tough spot, so I'm gonna pay what I need to pay to get my product, and maybe I'll think twice about how or where I buy in the future. Okay, so pay attention to the country out. Know where things are being manufactured. Know how it's being shipped in this country. Now, this is why I have this item over here. This game here, this is the second edition of 1811 Albuera from Tactical Workshop Games. This, I'm trying to remember if this is either a French or a Spanish company. It's in Europe. And they ended up having this manufactured in Japan. Okay. And they, at least for American customers, they had it shipped from Japan to the end customer, not shipping it back to them in Europe and then they distribute. So they probably did that for what their customers in Europe. They probably had everything shipped to them, but in a sense, it was drop shipped from the manufacturer in Japan to me. Now, this dodged a bullet. Okay, the Japanese tariffs, they were originally going to be 25%, then they negotiated down to 15%. Those hit like the week after. This just recently arrived, and about the day that the tariff was in effect, but it would have hit the port. It would have hit, wherever this was coming in, via, Long Beach, California or something, and then shipped up to me in the Pacific Northwest or however. This just dodged that. Now, this is important to know. If you're ordering something, you want to know if something manufactured, say, in China, and you think that, it's not going to be shipped, or in this case, Japan, this didn't go to the producer, the game company, and then shipped out. This was shipped straight from the country of origin. And I just happened to, so again, these are the questions you need to ask before you order something. You might need to, find out on your Kickstarter, on your Game Founds, on your backer kits, whatever funding platform that you're doing, or if it's, off the website, ask the question, how is this already in the States? Are you shipping it to me from a warehouse in the US, or is this going to be coming from overseas? Okay. Directly to you, or is it going to go to the company first? So those are the kind of questions to think about, the kind of things to ask. I've seen some deals online, and I've said, wow, that looks like a great price, and I had to take a double take and say, oh, wait a minute, this, not just games, but this thing is manufactured in India. India just recently got a bunch of tariffs against them because they're still buying oil from Russia. And so there was some tariffs put on them in retaliation for that. And so you got to look and see, wow, if you get hit with a 50% tariff on something, it's no longer a good deal, right? So you got to ask questions. If you're in any doubt, either don't buy or ask the questions and don't buy until you get it. Now, as gamers, sometimes we like to roll the dice, right? If you're that kind of person, this is a great deal, I'm going to do it. Just realize you could get a surprise. Now, $25 does not seem like a big deal, but believe me, it pissed me off. Okay, getting these things that I thought, coming from Canada, and there's a pause on the tariffs. Nope, it's country of origin China. Boom, and there's all these other extra processing fees. FedEx taking their extra chunk, and so paying, at least half of the value of these goods in the tariffs. Not fun. All right, folks. So remember, this has been a public service announcement, somewhat of a rant, a non-political rant. We're talking about the economics, the reality, the tale of tariffs, the tabletop games, and how you can be affected. So make informed decisions. That's the best thing you can do, is try to find out what tariffs are in effect, where, do a little research before you order, and maybe just give it a wait. Don't order now. Wait and see. Maybe the tariff situation will clean up and become less chaotic, and that. Okay, we can all hope for a little relief from that burden. All right, so Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. As I say, this has been my tale of two tariffs, or one here and one dodged here and surprise here. And as I also say, remember, take care of your games and they'll take care of you. Ciao, y'all.